Galileo, Galileo Figaro.
Galileo Galilei was born on February 15, 1564 in Pisa, Italy, and throughout his life built up a strong and diversified resume that ranged from astronomer to engineer to mathematician to inventor, also physicist, and to writer. Through Galileo's curiosity and his true scientific qualities, he revamped earlier scientists' and philosophers' way of understanding the physical world, which was previously interpreted by hypotheses and guesses. Galileo introduced modern experimental methods such as proving or disproving a theory by experimenting and testing, and then observing the results. And this kind of thinking led him to generate a myriad of his inventions and discoveries. In fields of math, physics, and astronomy, his accuracy withstood the aging of time, and today this can be known as the scientific method. His first discovery was a hanging lamp swinging back and forth. Through observations and the conduction of tests, he was able to invent the pendulum, and with mechanical clocks, could aid in measuring time. This invention also contributed medically, for doctors were able to use it to measure patients' pulse. And this initial invention was later adapted to be used as a pendulum clock. He also excelled in mathematics, pulling from mathematicians he had studied, Euclid and Archimedes. He expanded on their work in hydrostatics, an area in physics, and he created a hydrostatic balance. The purpose of this balance was to measure density or mass of objects by weighing them in water. His published essays of his inventions and findings propelled his status and reputation as a talented, formidable scientist. In 1593, Galileo invented the thermometer, and although this device at the time was inaccurate because the lack of calculation of air pressure, Galilei set the groundwork for a more accurate instrument of the similar characteristics to be constructed. In 1592, Galileo, whilst a math professor at Padua University, conducted his own experiments with falling objects, and his experiment results concluded were that no matter the weight, all objects fall at the same rate. And with this he had disproved the ideas of Aristotle and previous physics. He also extended and added on to these studies when he began to study the speed of falling objects between 1602 to 1609. He studied the motion of pendulums and other objects as they moved along arcs and inclines. His conclusions led him to the very important principle that falling objects accelerate at a constant rate. This law of steady acceleration of falling objects was later helpful to other important scientists, such as Isaac Newton, who discovered the laws of gravity. After these findings, Galileo primarily focuses on astronomy, which he is most known for. He did not make his first astronomical contribution until 1604, when an explosion of a star happens. He concludes from this event that this object was farther away than the planets and challenged Aristotle's ideas, again about the sky and the solar being perfect and unchanging heavens. Disclaimer: Galileo did not invent the telescope. The telescope was invented before by a man named Hans Lippershey in 1608. Galileo built his own telescope and made major improvements from the original. His telescope had magnification of 9 power. He focused on the telescope and improved it until it could magnify at a 30 power with the intention to be able to observe the stars and planets. He discovers jagged edges on the moon, which he realizes are mountaintops, and he thought at the time was large bodies of water on the moon called Maria, later disproved. He discovered there was a galaxy of individual stars and published these findings in a book called Sidereus Nuncius, or The Starry Messenger. He found that Venus had its own cycle of light and dark similar to the moon and was lit by the sun. He also found out through observing the dark spots of the sun and the position of those spots changing daily. which determined that the sun was rotating on its axis and the rate it was rotating. While Galileo was unable to determine Saturn's rings, he did note its odd shape and discovered Jupiter's four moons. Since the 2nd century, the most widely accepted view of the universe was that the Earth was the center of the universe, and the sun and all the planets and other objects rotated around it. This was the established teaching and narrative pushed by the Roman Catholics. However, in the early 1500s, astronomer Nicholas Copernicus had suggested that Earth, along with the other planets, circled the sun, and Copernicus's ideas had been banned by the Catholic Church. In 1613, Galileo published a book called Letters on Sunspots, where he presented evidence for and publicly defended the idea of the solar system earlier proposed by Copernicus. He also showed his findings on Venus, the Sun, and Jupiter, which proved not all moving bodies in the universe revolved around Earth. The Church declared Copernicus's system false and advised Galileo to not support this system. Galileo broke his agreement to support this theory and brought up his ideals to the newly elected Pope, Urban VII, and he was put on trial and found guilty and was imprisoned to house arrest for the rest of life.